So Desiree is a hypnotist and a hypnosis instructor. I met her 2 or 3 years ago online and then got to meet her in person last year at Hypnothoughts, and that was super exciting. She teaches intuitive hypnosis that is grounded in neuroscience. She trains healers and spiritual practitioners in a future-focused framework that complements and elevates their work. Excuse me. She's also the creator of the weekly microdose of hypnosis. If you don't have it, you might want to get it. It's always just kind of a nice little breath of fresh air when I receive those, typically on Sundays, I think. She has a vast membership dispensary of hypnotic experiences in short spans of time. That's the microdose, because hypnosis belongs in the everyday lives of humans. And I love that. That is so true. She'll be speaking this summer at the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference, which you were just talking about, right? And again, at Hypnothoughts Live, where I will be there with you as well. I'm going to also pop her website address in the chat box that's located to the right. So just give me a few minutes to do all that while she's talking. I'll put your links up. For anybody who wishes to find her later after this, you can. And I think I recall that you also have a hypnosis certification course. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that and anything else that you're up to these days. And then anybody who has questions, you can either save them till the end or pop them in the chat and I'll read them off whenever Desiree gives us a little break to do that. So without further ado, take it away, Miss Desiree.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my passion, obsession, hypnosis. So my training, my next training, I just finished one, my certification, and I have another one coming up in the fall. And I am training mostly people who are already like energy healers or spiritual practitioners or witches and things like that, because they don't realize it, but they're already doing hypnosis and they have a huge, important place in their clients' lives already. And I think that they should understand how the brain works and how it actually creates changes at a very deep, holistic, subconscious level because of that important role that they have in people's lives already. And when you know some of the science, you can actually be way more intuitive and way more effective at what you do. And actually, I just yesterday had a student who just graduated a few weeks ago tell me that they just did a session with somebody who is certified in hypnosis and that they were super nervous about it. But I guess when they spoke to that person, that afterwards they were like, it was very clear that your training was really different from mine, because they never did hypnosis because they didn't feel confident. So I'm striving to make hypnotists that are super confident because they know how change happens at the level of neurons, nervous system, experience of life. You can be very confident that what you're doing is right, and you can allow your intuition to just like take the wheel in that session when you have that, underlying knowledge. So I think it's really cool. And then everyone can make their own style of hypnosis and be really unique with it and speak to people. And then we're never competing, because your clients are coming to you because of your unique spin on it. So I have my unique spin and my students all have theirs. And they're better hypnotists than me because they weren't instilled with the limiting beliefs that I was in the very beginning. So I
love how you frame that too. If I could just pop in and say, because it's so important. A lot of people are like, well, there's too many hypnotists in my area. I'm not going to be successful. Or I'm going to have to lower my rates because somebody else, whatever. And honestly, none of us are in competition with each other. We all are so unique and so different. And we're going to find our own tribe by just being our authentic selves. So there's no competition.
That was one of the coolest things that I learned during the pandemic, by just being more interactive with other hypnotists and seeing how we all are taking this medium of hypnosis and making our own style of art with it. And it's very freeing to know that we're all doing our own special thing, and that, we're not in competition because of that. Because I'm not going to buy an impressionistic painting. I'm going to buy something totally different. And that's, what people are looking at, our art.
Absolutely. For sure. So do you mind telling us a little bit more about your certification program? Just how many people? Is it live? Is it online? Is it work at your own pace? Do they meet once a week? Just the details.
Online. Yeah, it's online for now. It's 100 hours through the ICBCH. And I created the curriculum myself because I think neuroscience is really important, and it's not in a lot of trainings that I've come across or that I've done. And so yeah, we meet 2 weekends a month, and then they have the rest of the month to they do self-paced work, and then they have practice sessions with each other and also with their clients, because many of them already are seeing clients for other things like energy work, tarot, astrology. And then they write their final exam is the hypnotic manifesto, aka their pre-talk, which is the thing that allows you to set up the best expectations for your clients and to deliver your style of hypnosis in a way that just is coming from your heart. So I ask for them to, like, take the things that they've learned and what makes them the most excited about hypnosis. Where do they see it cross over into the other things that they do and other areas of their lives? What made their mind blown when they learned about it? Like, and make that into like this awesome thing that they can deliver to new clients, or you even teach as a workshop to open people's minds to hypnosis as they, see it. So yeah, it's a month-long experience. And the next one happens in October, because I like to say that Halloween is hypnosis, or hypnosis is Halloween for the subconscious mind. The veil is thin. We have access to multiple realms, and they graduate on Halloween. So
Oh, I love that. That's so fantastic. I love the symbolism involved with all of that. That's wonderful. Yeah. So you had mentioned something about bringing the aesthetic in. What's that about?
yeah, yeah. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about ways that I bring in what we do in sessions and help to kind of bring it into more of the client's holistic life experience. So, how can we bring it out of the session? And so my background is I used to be a celebrity tailor and costume designer for 20 years. And so actually that background makes me a much better hypnotist, and also being a hypnotist would make me much better at that as well. So they're very similar. I always like to say, like, when people found out that I was studying hypnosis, they're like, that's a departure. And I'm like, actually, it's really not. I'm using, my skills, my knowledge to work with the client, collaborate to bring their desired outcome into the material world, and, so they can live and breathe in this, whatever we're doing. So yeah, their goals are coming to life, and that's what I'm helping them. And I'm checking along the way, multiple fittings, calibrating, making sure it's all to their liking. And so, there actually is, so some of you might be familiar with embodied cognition. There actually is something called enclothed cognition. And this is really cool. When I started reading about enclothed cognition, this is our subconscious mind making, symbols out of everything is symbolic. So that term enclothed cognition was coined in 2012, I believe, by two researchers. And I actually taught a whole workshop about this. It's called Hypnosis, but Make It Fashion. and applications for enclothed cognition. It's super fun. There's so many opportunities for it. But one of the, the best ways that I like to explain it is that well, here, I always use my own life examples as like a way of kind of, priming my clients for, what they're about to experience or giving them ideas. So in 2012, I lived in San Francisco for a really short period of time. And I lived in Noe Valley, and it's like always kind of cold and rainy up there. It's at the top of a hill. And the air up there just made me want to run. And I had never been a runner in my whole entire life. I'm from New York. The air there, you just don't want to breathe it in, really. So being in this like fresh, cool air with like a mist in it, it's just like, oh, so refreshing. I wanted to run. And the only way I could really get myself to do it was by wearing my running clothes to bed, so that when I woke up, I would literally just spring out of bed. All I would have to do is put my shoes on, nothing else, take the keys, no phone at that time, and just run. And like, because, and so then you're starting to create this anchor to these clothes mean something. They mean I'm going running. And when I get out of bed, that's the first thing I feel. So like when a client has a goal in mind, or any kind of like whatever they're coming to see me for, what if we can find something in their wardrobe that they already have that is symbolic of that makes them feel a certain way, whether it's a color, a texture, or like leggings. Like I was just telling Krissa before this, I had more comfortable pants on, and I actually, before I sat down for here, I had to go put on a little bit more constrictive ones, because they actually make me feel more structured and, make me speak better. So and so the science of enclosed cognition, I guess the research that they first did into this was with a lab coat. And again, I taught a whole workshop about this that was more scientifically oriented, but they had subjects look at wear a lab coat, a white lab coat, and perform some simple tests. And then they had another group wear that same lab coat, except they called it a painter's coat. And they did the same test. And I think the lab coat people did like almost double, like 2 times as well, like, or yeah, like I said, I taught a whole workshop on this, but yeah, they made like less than half of the amount of mistakes as the people in the painter's coat did. And
Wow.
follow-up experiments where they had it just in their line of sight, and whether it was a painter's coat or a lab coat, but it only really happened when they were wearing it, because there's all this symbolism that they start to embody when you think of a lab coat, and this also comes up in things like white coat syndrome, the anxiety that people maybe sometimes experience by seeing someone in a white coat because of their past. So these things are so symbolic. And
It reminds me of the Stanford prison experiment
yes,
where
yeah,
they had them designated as either, warden and staff or prisoners, and then they would switch. And it
or
got quite violent. They haven't ever done it again because the outcome was so unexpectedly violent. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's even a story of someone in a concentration camp who this man told this story that he took a patch or something. He wasn't supposed to have it, but there was something about like he survived these ridiculous circumstances that he never should have, and nobody else did, because he had like something that made him feel powerful, that was like from like it was like actually like a Nazi patch or something, but it's like it was never questioned. And it's just because that's the thing, people, it's all about how you feel. And so people aren't judging these like little things that they see on you, like, or they're judging the whole, and it's how you show up, and it's how you kind of hold yourself. And that's one of the things as a tailor that I would see in the mirror. So once with clients, I'd be standing behind them pinning their sleeve, and as I pin their sleeve, and they start to hold themselves differently. And then I would actually, now as a hypnotist, I know that I have to do that too, because if I question for a moment, or like a lot of stylists like lean back, and you have to inspire that confidence, you have to have that too. So mirror neurons, like in the mirror, I think that that's a really
Yes.
important aspect of it. So if they can, and again, our subconscious is so symbolic. So sometimes in hypnosis, I'll have a client, depending on, it's always like an intuitive process, but if they are somebody who wants to maybe lose weight or be more active, which those two do quite often go hand in hand. Sometimes I'll ask them if they have something that they actually would like to wear when they're doing, what is it that you like to do? Do you like to hike? Or is that how you want to be more active? Or can you wear that in the session? But it doesn't always have to be that way, because we can just imagine what it feels like. Or in hypnosis, ask their subconscious mind, what is it that you can wear when you're in that situation? Is it a pair of blue socks? Is it a necklace? It could be actually anything. And we can allow that to drop in the session. It could be concealed, covert. I have a ring that I wear that is very powerful for me, and that I made too. So it can be anything. It can even be a perfume, but how can we allow that? We can ask for that in the session and allow it to just be ridiculous. And maybe it doesn't make sense, but it always will later is the cool thing. Or it can be more rehearsed. And, if there is like a specific, end goal, like I had a client with a phobia of heights who was doing a marathon in a beautiful, like park where there would be lots of ledges. And they wore what they would wear when they were running. So that helped them anchor that experience in hypnosis. And after one session, I got a photo of this person, in Arizona in this beautiful national park doing something that they never would have been able to do before in the clothes that they kind of rehearsed it in. So I think that that's so cool. And it's a really fun way to, bring what we do in the sessions into their life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anchoring it in. I love that. I love that. Yeah. And actually, I hadn't done it on purpose, but now that you say that, there is one particular scarf that I wear frequently when I'm doing sessions. And it's like a last minute thing. Like I'll be already dressed, whatever. And then all of a sudden I'll just be like, oh yeah, and grab it. But I don't grab it when I'm going out of the house to do, grocery shopping or something. So I hadn't even ever really consciously put that together.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love that.
It's cool. And when I start pointing that out to people, they'll start noticing those little patterns too, and I noticed them in myself, like just recently. We're always evolving, but I had a big realization about something that I always wear and like what it actually symbolized. And it symbolized something that was kind of from a past part of myself that I've already evolved away from. So now I'm like, I never want to wear that again, but I made that realization. It's funny. So we'll start to see patterns of, the things that we're drawn to, perhaps, and what that might mean. So it just opens this little door in the client's life as well. So I think that's super fun.
Was that when you were going only wearing black? I remember you talking about that.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
what you're referring to?
Yeah.
That's great. I remember that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome that you're recognizing it. And then you're like, I deserve color.
Yeah. And now the black is even more powerful because I can wear it with intention. So I'm from New York. I used to always wear black. I worked in theater and film for a long time, and you're supposed to wear black to fade into the background. But so I did that for 20 years. And then, at some point I did attempt to wear color again. And I had a bit of a traumatic experience that set me back. And I said, I'm never going to wear colors again. And then I didn't for another whole 10 years until basically like a few months ago. I would always wear stuff like this kind of, but mostly all black. And yeah, I realized that is symbolic of being hidden, because I used to, have to be backstage. That's what my subconscious associates it with, being safe, and actually even hypervigilance, because I've been, maybe in several times in my life assaulted. So, I immediately linked the two as like wanting to not be seen, but I've done all this work to be seen and love and enjoy it. And so the black doesn't resonate anymore. However, I can use it as a really powerful tool now for grounding. Like I'll probably always wear black jeans, and that is like super grounding, like allowing me to stand like on a solid foundation and, not be fucked with, pardon my French. So it feels more powerful now that I'm not shrouding myself in it, and I can use it with more intention. So these are like the doors we open when we start to, I think, ask maybe in hypnosis, the client to come up with something that they can wear, and then asking them, to imagine what it feels like, because even that one mental rehearsal is already doing something for them in their life. And there is research to show that too. So that's exciting. I think just like mentally rehearsing, what is going to be like doing this in this, and always calibrating. So like, I'm always noticing, and also because I'm a tailor, I do notice these things and I reduce it back to what could they be wearing? I had a client once who wanted to come to see me for like a binge eating habit that they had developed during the pandemic, and they had been working from home. They're in finance, and they got a promotion that they had been waiting their whole career for 25 years in a new company. They're going to be working in the office again for the first time in this new place. And they have this title that they have dreamed of since they were young, of senior executive. And when they said the word senior executive, their whole posture changed. And I just saw them in a suit jacket. Like I just knew. So I asked them, what do you wear as senior executive? Because those words just like changed their whole body, and they lit up from within, And so we had them rehearsing, being in their house, imagining what they're wearing at work. Because, when I asked them, what does senior executive mean to you? They're like, well, it means people are watching me. People are looking up to me, just like I looked up to the senior executive for the last 25 years, like that, and so that feeling allows them to stand taller and know that they're being observed and that people want to emulate their behaviors. And how can we take that now into your kitchen, even if you're not actually wearing what you would wear to work? They can start to imagine that and associate that posture, that feeling with their kitchen and their home life now. And it's very powerful. So just, start to notice what people talk about, because that's that embodied cognition, or that enclosed cognition again, these symbols, senior executive, that's like a very symbolic thing for this person. And it's very powerful. So
yeah, it's playing with resource states essentially, right? Or ego states. But it reminds me of that Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny cartoon where the hat truck, all the hats blow off, and then every time they put on a different hat, they become a completely different character. Do you remember that?
I know that
But
one.
yeah, like, honestly, if I walk into, I don't know, back when I was a personal chef, if I walked into a grocery store to pick something up and I was wearing my chef's coat, people would come up to me and ask me all sorts of questions, assuming that I'm working there and I have something to do with food, right? But if I walk in there and I'm, wearing a business suit, they're not going to ask me food questions. And so that part of me just goes into hiding. And then I guess in using your client's terms, the senior executive part would be coming out, because that's also who's being engaged with. I love that.
Yeah.
It's more than just stepping into it, visually, hypothetically, with your imagination, but actually wearing the clothes that are associated with
Yeah.
that resource state.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can even be more like abstract too. Like, like what color comes to mind with this, or what texture comes to mind with that. And then like, these desired feelings, and they can just start to even develop a little bit of a wardrobe of, ways that they can feel resourced, even if it is at home, if they're feeling lonely. Like what color or what texture would you want when you're feeling like alone or isolated at home? You can come up with something for that too. So it's kind of fun to just see what the subconscious comes up with. And, it's always exciting.
Yeah. I've had my closet color coordinated all these years. I think maybe I need to coordinate it by state instead.
Love that idea. I might have to do.
I'm like, who do I need to be today? Oh, there she is.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I think that's great. Did you want to take any questions at all? Does anybody have any? Is that okay with you? I saw somebody looked like they were like about to say something and then no. Okay, go ahead. I'm not going to call the person out because I don't want to embarrass them, but it seemed like somebody wanted to say something and I wanted to give them the opportunity. So carry on, my dear.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about, so another thing that I do with clients always is to pick a song for this transit in your life. So, and this happened by accident. This happened in one of my very first paid sessions, inspired this to kind of always be a thing. Because it was a friend of a friend, they had a dental phobia. And as I was talking to them, it turns out they're a boxer. And one of their most empowered states is coming out into the ring to a specific song that would always play. And that song makes them feel just so awesome in their body. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, so imagine that song, and like use that song as self-hypnosis. That was the first time I encountered it. And it was very successful for them. They listened to it in the waiting room. They were even allowed to listen to it like in the dentist's chair. So it was really powerful and they had a great experience. But I started researching it more. And I actually also taught a whole workshop on this called Soundtrack as Spellcraft. And it's using, and I'll actually be teaching about this at the hypnosis conference in Seattle, or in Tacoma, pardon, in June, Soundtrack as Spellcraft. So I'll be going more into like the science and how we're actually designed as humans to experience music at a very deep, unconscious level. It's a whole full nervous system massage. But the cool thing is, and I think I read this in Musicophilia by Oliver Sacks, that our brain remembers music. Like when they watch a brain remembering music and listening to it, the activity is identical, whether we're remembering a song that we know really well or one that we just heard. Our brain is uniquely designed to remember music. That's why people with traumatic brain injuries and stuff and dementia, they can come back to life kind of through music. There's almost like a black box in our brain for music. And so I pre-frame that sometimes with my clients just to let them know, okay, so like sometimes I'll ask them, always for smokers, I ask them, pick a song. It's kind of their homework, like pick a song for this transit in your life. Very often a smoker will have a lot of my smoking clients, they want to, they're triggered on a drive to work kind of thing. So if they can listen to that song while they're at work, this is going to be like, their anthem for this change in their life. And then it has all this power going forward. So like, that's what's kind of cool, because you start to compile in this one song all of this momentum, all of this change. So I have a song that I've been using for the last like 7 years and has so much awesome stuff in it. I just listened to it before I came on here and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I'm transported to so many places and I have all these powers in this one song. And it makes me just like filled with all of this amazing feeling. But the cool thing is that, we can let it drop in hypnosis too. So if I'm guiding a client through something, future pacing them, just let their subconscious drop in a soundtrack right now, knowing that your mind is remembering this song almost identical to as you hear it, so that the next time that you hear it, it's going to be even that much more powerful. It's going to have all of these good feelings with it, like, and future pace them with that soundtrack. And then that soundtrack then can become self-hypnosis, without actually going into hypnosis. So I think that that's really powerful. Sometimes I'll recommend that they pair it with things like tapping, like in the morning. I recommend tapping. It's not the most portable tool, right? But what if you can future pace yourself into those areas where you'll be triggered in the day, especially for smokers, like, you like to smoke after lunch, you like to smoke in the car. I'd put yourself there now, put that song on, do a round of tapping in the car, do a round of tapping at lunch, or with your coworkers or whatever. And then that song is then they don't even need the tapping, and they just have the song, and then they don't even need the song, and they just have the memory, and then they're just living, without. So
I love that. I really love that. That's fantastic. I've used music in my sessions before, but I've never thought of using it in that way, like having the client themselves just pick whatever the soundtrack is and listen to it in their own mind. So I love that. I'm going to totally start doing that. Thank you.
It's trippy what happens with the music, because music changes because it's metaphors, right? I mean, very often if there is words to the music, it's metaphors, and those change as we change. So we hear different things. So I will always hear back from a client saying, like, they chose, and again, sometimes we let the subconscious just drop it in, and it's surprising. Sometimes it's a little weird, and they're like, what's that about? And then they'll know a few days later, because they'll be like, oh my gosh, like I had this crazy realization about like this line in this song. For me, working with a song for like 7 years, one song, I still hear new things in it to this day. And it's wild. It never ceases to amaze me, but the metaphors change as we change. And so it's just this thing that can grow with them and build up all this power. And then I let them know, like, next time you want to make another change in your life, you can bring this song in again, because you already have success built into it, and bring that in, and, build that success as the foundation for this next evolution of yourself. So
yeah, that's powerful. I remember my youngest son, he did wrestling in high school, and he would always listen to this one Eminem song to get himself like all like, just in that space of like, yeah, I can do this, So whenever that was blasting out of his room, I was like, oh, I think we have a wrestling match this evening. Time to get ready. And I've used music for this again will show my age, but the Benny Hill theme song, which actually happened way before I was born, but I grew up, listening to it from like my parents and stuff. But for people with phobias, like I had this little kid who had a phobia of zombies. And so we would, fast forward, rewind, do all the things, make it big and loud, make it small and black and white. And then I started having the soundtrack playing with it backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And it completely went away. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't tell him, I didn't anchor in the song itself of like, whenever you're having that fear, just hear the song again.
yeah.
So, I mean, you've just given me a whole new tool. Like, thank you. I'd been using music sometimes, but not to the degree that I was ever like anchoring it in or, asking them to come up with it. So, no, that's fantastic. It's brilliant. I love it.
It's really powerful, and to know and to share that, just knowing that your brain remembers this as though you're actually hearing it. And so, it's like, it works even if you're imagining it.
Yeah. It also, I keep thinking of like pop culture references, but in Shawshank Redemption, when Andy was stuck in solitary confinement and he would just hear, I think it was Mozart over and over. And like, there was a certain piece that he would just play forwards, backwards, just do all the things and keep himself from going insane. So that is such a powerful thing. Yeah. Thank you. I think you've given all of us something to be like, oh, excited about. Yeah, this is why I love doing these spotlight guest hosts, because we all learn something new every single time, just by bringing like your own unique vision to everyone else. Thank you again.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share before we go into like my questions for you?
No, God, I'd love to hear your questions.
Well, so this is just a question that I ask everyone, which is the most surprising or exciting or bizarre or unexpected thing that you've ever experienced, either in a session or as a result of a session? And I'm sure you probably have a few, but whatever that first one is that comes up for you, I'd love to hear all about that.
Yeah. Well, my favorite, and I wonder, did you ask? I'm like, I have digital.
Share it again, even
Okay.
if you said it before. Yeah, because we have a different audience now. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I did a mindscape with somebody once. It's a lot of Seattle references or Northwest Pacific Northwest references, but this friend of mine, it was a referral from a friend, was going to be doing their first speaking engagement ever in Seattle, and they were located near me here at the time. And we did a session on Zoom, a mindscape. And in this mindscape, they got this door appeared, and it was like slightly ajar, but there was no wall. It was just a door frame, and there was no wall. And they were like, this is so weird. And they were just fascinated. Like, they're like, what's the point of the door if there's no wall, you know? And it's like, anyway, the next day they're in Seattle, and they FaceTime me from, I think it's August Wilson Way. The place where they were doing their speaking engagement actually had the same color too, a red door, ajar, no frame, no wall, just a door and a door frame. And it's a monument to August Wilson, I guess, outside of this theater. And they were blown away because they were like, I went there in my mind.
So it was like prophetic.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. I don't think that you told us that last time. Yeah, that sounds new to me. That's great. Anything else? I'd love to. I mean, I'm sure you just have some pretty remarkable experiences, given that, you know, your particular path with change work.
Yeah, I do. There's something, I also do hypnotic cord cutting. I created a protocol for cord cutting that is really, really powerful. And one of the really interesting things that I've noticed about it, and I don't tell clients this beforehand, I don't want to ever condition their expectations, but it's fascinating because I've done it with all genders and gender identities at this point. But so the way that it works is, and I think this is what I'm talking about at Hypnothoughts a little bit. So we ask the higher self to present a cord that, usually when somebody comes to a cord cutting, they have a very specific cord that they want to cut. So there's that really strong intention. And then I ask them to be surprised as we hand this over to their higher self, because their higher self will give the origin point quite often. Not always. Sometimes they're right with the one that they want to cut, but sometimes it's the one that created the lifelong pattern that led to that one cord. And this is all based on my personal experiences, why I created the protocol list in this way. I think almost every single person, except for one or two that I've done this with, the cord has been with their father, even if they've never met their father, which I think is really interesting, because it's like the patriarchy showing up in hypnosis in this way, across all spectrum of identity and gender. It's fascinating to me. So it never really ceases to amaze me.
Wow.
That is something that I'm really fascinated with. And I just did another one yesterday, and it was the same.
So what is their response to this? After you have a cord cutting session, out of curiosity, the client's response to it.
Do you mean the fact that it was their father, or just in general
No, with their father? Yeah, specifically with that, because
usually,
you're saying that it's across the board, it's happening. So what's, I guess, the benefit or the response that they have?
Their response is, they're surprised sometimes, or sometimes it makes sense. Usually it makes sense. It's this specific memory, or this, usually something comes. I'm the one who's surprised, I guess, mostly. I'm just or I think it's kind of fascinating that because I think I've done hypnotic cord cuttings more than any other kind of session that I've done, because I'm kind of known for that. So, and not a lot of people do that in hypnosis specifically. So I have a lot of experience with that, more than with other things. And yeah, I just find it fascinating. But yeah, they're very, very powerful, because you are getting that kind of origin of some kind of limiting thing that created a pattern that, kind of spawned throughout your life. So
Is it something you can share with us? Is it like a simple enough protocol that you could share with us, or is it something that we would need to take a class
Yeah,
to
yeah.
understand?
I am doing a class this summer, at some point, hopefully soon. But yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. And there's a lot of metaphors that establish. So the first session is usually a little bit script. I mostly don't use scripts at all, but for this, there's a lot of storytelling involved. So there's a lot of important metaphors that lay the foundation. And then when people come back for another one, if they do, I have a protocol for those. That's just like a kind of a bullet point outline. But I think it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of involved, but not really.
Okay. That's great. Is there anything that you would like to share with us as far as any protocols or methods, or just something that we could, take with us and be like, oh, here's a whole new tool that we can add to our toolbox?
Well, I think I think adding a soundtrack or adding a song, making an anthem for it, I think that's really powerful. And the cool thing is they're going to hear it in places where they don't expect it to. That's the other thing, because their reticular activating system is like attuned to it, no matter how weird or obscure it is. Sometimes I have clients who their subconscious drops in like a TV theme song sometimes, and they'll end up hearing it. So it's like you just like that's just it. It has like opportunity for fun and for like, I don't know, that they're going to call you back and just be like, guess what happened? They're going to update you. And it's just like, it's good for rapport, I think, and a lasting relationship. But let's see what else. I mean, the soundtrack,
I didn't mean to make it sound like you haven't already given us some tools. I just want more, Desiree. I want more. I'm like, extract it all out. Come on. In 60 minutes or less, right? Sorry. Does anybody else have any questions? Just raise your hand. Yes, Matt, please.
First of all, I thought this was it too. So Desiree, when you shot me that message, I thought, oh, we're gonna meet beforehand. And I was like, I was about to call you, and it was you were busy. I wanted to say that I've used I learned the idea of this songcraft, the spellcraft from Desiree. And I don't know if this is what you're specifically talking about, Desiree, but putting one song on a loop, and because I know you love Buddy Holly, and it's a thing that you taught me. This Waylon Jennings has a Buddy Holly medley that he did that's like 7 or 8 minutes long, and it came on my Alexa once, and I just I went right into like a focus trance, and because it made me think of you, and I learned it from you, and it was Buddy, all those things lined up, and from then on, like whenever I think about it, and it's kind of a hard song to, sometimes Alexa doesn't always find it for me, but I put that song on, and it works. I would have never thought one song on a loop would be the way to go, but I've experimented with that, and I've had such great success with it, for focus and everything. So this is what I wanted to share.
I love that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great point too. Okay, so yeah, the song on a loop, because what that's doing, again, it's every part of our brain is active when we're listening to music. It's all working in concert, and our whole nervous system is like activated in a good way, hopefully. And so when you find a song that kind of feels good and gets you into some kind of zone, a flow state, listen to it on repeat, because you're going to be able to kind of ride that wave for even longer. So that's what I do. I'm a little crazy when it comes to that kind of stuff. I listen to a song like on repeat for a very long time, but it allows me to it's a predictable rhythm for your nervous system to kind of get into a flow. Also, another thing that the song is really good for is for people with ADHD. A lot of my clients, what if hypnosis to start their self-hypnosis practice is just like actually really getting into their favorite song. And what if you can just listen to it once without distraction? And then what if you can kind of build on that and like, listen to it on repeat and get in a good flow state? They have a lot of success with that. So I'm actually, I have my weekly microdose of hypnosis, and those are these short audio experiences that are like 13 minutes or less. Occasionally there's a macro dose as well, but what that's about is that I hope to open people's minds to the fact that, whether they are limited on time or attention, there is, a way for them to experience hypnosis at a foundational level. And I'm actually writing a book on this right now. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, hypnosis belongs in the everyday lives of people. And when they can start to understand that it, we kind of demystify all of this stuff, that it requires all of this sitting still, and we can take what we do in sessions with them and bring it out into the world and make them feel like they have some sense of control and autonomy and, like predictability in their life. That is so empowering. And listening to your favorite song, or a song that makes you feel good, and just sitting through it once or working your way up to that, that's really powerful for somebody who's never really been able to like sit still. They love that. And then what if we can just like put it on repeat? And then what if you can start doing something productive during that time, because your subconscious is like now in this zone, and we just build on it, but it starts tiny.
You just made my little neurodivergent brain so happy. And I realized that I have been doing that since I was an adolescent. I already was like, I would have cassette tapes with one song on a loop over and over and over on one side, and then on the other side with another song. You did that too? Yeah. And like, I would listen to it while I was doing homework or something, just to like be able to stay, like, I didn't even know what ADHD was back then. But as far as hypnosis in everyday life, you know what? I would say we already are being hypnotized in everyday life. It's just a matter of choosing hypnosis that is going to benefit us, as opposed to hypnosis that is going to not benefit us, because we're being hypnotized every time we think we have to go buy this product or have that car or make this much money in order to feel successful, or, all of that is totally hypnosis, except that we call it brainwashing when it's negative. But if we're replacing that with positive hypnosis, like,
right,
it's fantastic.
That's my mission in life, is to get people to realize that you're already in trances like all the time. And trances aren't these like, totally like zonked out, zombified states. They're like these, they're these passing shifts of awareness, and they're temporary by design. And, when a lot of my clients can relate to scrolling on social media for a really long time. What if you could use that same state of focus and attention for something that you actually like, so I love to like teach them, I call it iPhone desensitization, where you just like hold your phone in your hand and put it in airplane mode or something, look at that black screen and just allow yourself to zone out, and imagine all the notifications coming, and notice how heavy it feels in your hand, and then just put it down, and then just realize that you can use the same state as now, like almost like a hypnotic induction. And then think about what you actually want instead of just like consuming, anything passively like we do, or we tend to in this day and age. So yeah, anything.
Yeah, that's it right there. It's the active versus passive, actively hypnotizing yourself in beneficial ways, as opposed to passively being brainwashed, Totally.
Yeah.
I tell people that a lot of what I do is like unhypnotizing them and then re-hypnotizing them in beneficial ways.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's like a really important point. So I like to call hypnosis, I call it a state of focused autonomy. And I let them know that you're in these trances all the time. And the only thing that makes hypnosis different is that you're choosing to go into one of these temporary shifts of awareness for the purpose of making some discovery or making some change within your subconscious mind. So it feels more empowering, and it's not about, any kind of, brainwash or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And the brainwashing part, that's the stuff that we're not really signing up for. It's just passive. It's just happening. We're not even aware of it. And then one day we're like, I can't eat that kind of peanut butter because it's not the right brand, or something. And where did that come from? Does anybody else have any questions? Comments? Sharing your favorite song that you might start using Desiree's protocol with.
Oh, yeah.
Matt, what's yours? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
My favorite song for what?
For getting focused. If you were to do a song on a loop over and over just for you, what would be yours?
Probably the Buddy Holly medley, because
The one from
I
Desiree?
associate with Desiree. And that's and that's even more powerful. Like I
Yeah.
also have um Jerry Lee Lewis's version of Me and Bobby McGee when I want to get
Ah, wow.
psyched up. And if I'm, oddly enough, before I go teach yoga to warm my voice up to, it's an odd song, but yeah, the on the loop thing, I just,
I didn't even know he did a version of that.
oh,
That's fantastic.
it's actually Chris Christopherson's favorite version.
Wow.
So it's worth
Very
looking.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally will. I like both of them. Let's see. We also have Luana says that when she wants to feel confident, she listens to Rihanna, but she has to figure out one for getting focused. And Cindy says Feeling Groovy is one that she listens to for feeling focused. I listen to an Einaudi song for getting focused, but then I'll listen to like Iggy Pop or something when I want to just get more energy. So yeah, I have all different, or the Beatles if I'm just like needing to touch into feelings that are laying a little bit dormant and just kind of get them activated again, stuff like that.
I like little 3-song playlists I'll make. I have one called Champagne Cocktail because this came to me. I think Elizabeth Sterling is in this group. But anyway, we traded sessions recently, and in it, my subconscious gave me this metaphor of a champagne cocktail, and it was so fun. It's like, what does it sound like? What is it like when I'm speaking authentically and not feeling nervous? And it was a champagne cocktail, because a champagne cocktail it's a sugar cube soaked in bitters, so it's like all this earthy. And I imagine I was the champagne flute, so it's like down there, and my root chakra is like this. It's coming from this grounded sugar cube, grounded with like all this bitter herbs, and then from there the little bubbles come up, and then it's all fizzy at the top, and then I'm just like popping bottles and I can't shut up. So
I love that. What a great visual.
yeah, I feel it in my body, and I made a 3-song playlist that feels like the champagne cocktail. So just in like 12 minutes or something, if I know I didn't listen to it this morning, but sometimes if I have to speak and I'm a little bit nervous, I will listen to that 3-song playlist, get in my champagne cocktail, get the little bubbles flowing. And but yeah,
I'm gonna totally like come up with the 3-song playlist to do that. I love that.
yeah.
Who else is gonna try that? Show of hands. Come on. There you go. All right, George. All right, Suze. Yay. Yeah, no, I love that. What a great idea. And it keeps you away from just like staring at a screen.
Yeah.
Because that can, like you said, that can totally just like once you get sucked into the rabbit hole of that, this way, if you're listening to music, it'll just, keep you going. I love that.
And to release things too. So again, I'll be teaching this at the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference in a few weeks. And also I do have a workshop that is on my website called Soundtrack of Spellcraft that goes more into, but like, even when you're sad, like, do you have a sad song? I have sad songs that make me cry. And there are days where I just think, I feel like I want to cry. And then I'm like, oh, I should just go cry. And I have a song that'll do that. And I don't even have to listen to the whole playlist of 4 songs or whatever it is. Usually it's just one.
Cat Stevens for me every time if I need to cry. Yep.
See that.
Matt, yes.
I totally did that, Desiree. I remember you talking about that as well. Like when I had my last day as a trainer, and I knew they were doing a thing for me, and I was literally afraid I was going to ugly cry, and like ugly cry, and I thought I so I lined up like 4 songs, and I sat down and I ran through them, and I just got as much of that out as I could, and it really worked.
Right?
Yeah, thank God.
So you preemptively cried before the event?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I knew it was gonna get me, and it kind of did. I'm okay crying. I just knew I was gonna, and
right in front of all those people. Yeah. No, I get it. Get it. That's fantastic. I'm going to try that. I cry easily. I laugh easily. I cry. Like, I'm just an expressive person. So I'm going to try that next time I know that there's like anything that might potentially cause that. I'm going to preemptively focus on going ahead and letting it out so that there's just not as much there that when I, receive the whatever or get on stage or whatever it is. Thank you. Thank you.
I learned that from Desiree said at one, I don't know, maybe she said in this talk, but like every now and then didn't you say that? Every now and then you intentionally, you put something sad on to cry specifically to get stuff out that you may not be aware of.
I love to cry. Yeah, I never did it preemptive purpose. That's cool. But yeah, as somebody who used to be sick and have all sorts of autoimmune diseases and you walk with a cane, I realized that I didn't cry for the first 23 years of my life. Like, I didn't cry. I mean, maybe when I was a baby, I didn't cry. And I freaking love crying now. It feels like just so good. And I'm not sick anymore, So I really do believe just like feeling feelings and letting them flow is something to
just
that.
feeling them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I like just search them, find them, get them out.
There's this energy healing method that I've been learning that has totally changed my whole mind about like those kinds of things. Cause it says in it that starting off with a strong negative emotion is more powerful than a weak positive one. So go ahead and find whatever emotion you're having, find the strongest one and enter into the work with that. Even if it's not joy and happiness, like you definitely don't want just pure peace and calm, because that's not going to be as effective with manipulating the energy that you need to do with energy work. So I thought I was like, wow, that kind of goes like against anyway, what happens is I've done so much work on my central nervous system that I don't tend to have those big negative emotions anymore. And I realized that's maybe not so healthy either, And so now when I have one, I want to harness it. I'm like, oh, look, I'm really irritated. Okay, this is a good time to practice.
Yeah.
Instead of going like, oh, I'm really irritated. Well, that's bad. I must have judgment against myself for that. Make myself go feel something other than that. Like, that's not healthy.
Yeah, we need that like kind of polarity, and that allows for the actual like transmutation to happen, the like alchemy. It's so cool.